Hello, hello.
Hello.
So welcome to episode, I think we're 12, 11 or 12, of Little Life, Big Loss. And today I have a beautiful mama joining me. Her name is Collette, and she's going to be sharing her story of loss and heartache. And there's some beautiful hope at the end of it. We again, I don't always know the full story of anyone, and I love to just like kind of hear it as we go along. I love the authenticity of that. Obviously, as people are starting to fill forms in, I do get a little snippet of it, so I know a little bit of your story, but not the whole thing. I want to thank you for coming onto the podcast. I always feel so honored and blessed, honestly, because it's such a sacred space and it's such a vulnerable story to share. And so thank you so much. I don't take it for granted. So we will dive right in. I always ask this question to start with. Obviously, the day we lose our babies, we change forever. And so, who were you? Who was Collette before she lost her baby?
Who was I? I was a nurse. So I had been nursing, oh gosh, for 7 years.
Yep.
Surgical nurse. So I worked on a surgical ward, not in the actual theatre space itself, but post-operatively.
Yep.
I was a midwife.
Oh, wow.
I had studied for a couple of years. I had started my grad position as a midwife, but I actually came out of midwifery before I had Amelia,
Yep.
um, and went back to the surgical nursing.
Yep.
I was a wife, Emma wife,
Yep.
to Nathan.
Yep.
We met in high school together.
Cute.
Sister, daughter, friend,
Yeah.
amateur interior designer, maybe.
Yeah.
Love
Love
taking photos.
that.
So that was kind of me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. What made you leave midwifery to go back to surgical?
I found I liked a lot of the midwifery care.
Yep.
Um, I did find it quite stressful at
Mm-hmm.
times.
Yeah.
And I found I got to a point that the stress outweighed the enjoyment.
Yeah.
And it was I was actually becoming quite anxious about going there.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
it led into having some panic attacks.
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
made that decision to not work there anymore.
Yeah.
And then, went back to the surgical area, which I loved. I loved that side of it
Mm.
as well. So, I felt quite disappointed in myself for having done the study and then not pursuing it. But it still definitely helped in my
Mm.
career and now, post
And do
having.
you think, like, so interestingly, do you think that it helped in everything you went? I think in this situation, sometimes I've got a friend who's a pediatric nurse, and she says she knows too much, and so
Yeah,
sometimes that can go against you. So being a midwife, I'm sure it's either going to help you in this situation, or it's like, oh, I know way too much now, or I've seen too much. So,
yeah. It was definitely there were pros and cons to it.
yeah,
Being able to understand the physiological side of it as well as the maternal side of it
yeah,
did help, but it also, I guess, made me hesitate sometimes when thinking about my pregnancy time. Should I go get checked out? Oh no, I'm sure things are like,
yeah,
midwifery voice in the back of your head.
yeah.
Um, so it did help. And then after losing Amelia, having that knowledge, I guess, helped me process what had happened
Sure. Yeah.
uh, from a medical word, I
Far
guess.
out.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so let's go to conceiving. Was your journey to conceiving a hard one? Was it easy? Was it IVF? Was it a surprise?
It was actually it was quite straightforward. I was very, very lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Very lucky. So it took us only 5 cycles. So I'm very blessed with that.
Yeah.
Um, it, it wasn't a stressful conception.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I conceived Amelia in 2019,
Yeah.
a few months after Nathan and I were married at the start of that year.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it was September. September we conceived Amelia.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so yeah, very, very blessed with our conception in that
Yeah.
regard. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
good. And then how was your pregnancy?
It was very uncomplicated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I made it through that first trimester. I was, even though having nursed and did mid, I saw people come in having miscarriages all the time. My nursing portfolio was around pregnancy loss before I had.
Mm. Wow.
I'd cared for these families, and then when I was working in mid, I saw families have stillborns and
Mm.
so having, even though I went into this completely naive, it's not going to
Mm. Isn't that crazy?
see it, but you don't think you're going to experience it. So the first
Mm.
trimester, yeah, I was a little bit anxious with that miscarriage, higher risk in the back of your mind, but
Mm-hmm.
got through that. Bit of morning sickness, all day sickness. That
Mm-hmm.
lasted until probably 16 weeks. I actually was very lucky and did an overseas trip to Europe with a few friends when I was pregnant with Amelia.
Wow. How cool.
So that was, looking back at
Go.
that was really lovely
Yeah.
to have that connection.
Mm-hmm.
Um, second trimester, lovely, straightforward, nice, strong movements.
Yeah.
Everything was textbook perfect. My
Mm.
midwife appointments, everything was measuring fine, everything was great. Got
Yeah.
into the third trimester, and again, everything straightforward, no concerns.
Yeah.
Until I got to 38 weeks when I went into labour.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so you're happy if I go into
Absolutely. Every single
just
detail.
jump
Whatever
into
you
it?
feel best. Yep. Go
Yeah.
for it.
So 26th of May,
Yeah.
2020. So
Yeah.
COVID had hit
Wow.
at
Yeah.
the end of 2019. And I ended up finishing up work around 32 weeks, it must have been. Because of working in the hospital, we weren't quite sure what COVID was, what the
Mm-hmm.
risk had for pregnant
Of
women. So,
course.
yeah, so I ended up coming away and having quite a few weeks. It was 6 weeks before I went into labour.
Yeah.
So I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning on the
Yeah.
26th of May. Woke up, had some discomfort. Wasn't unusual towards, I guess, the end of the pregnancy. Went to the bathroom. By the time I came back into the bedroom, like, no, this is more than just discomfort. So
Mm-hmm.
contractions started going strong from
Mm-hmm.
go.
Were you
Um,
excited or scared or nervous? I mean, labor for me just scares the heck
oh,
out of me.
yeah, I was very much like, oh, like you kind of, yeah, you mentally try and prepare yourself for that moment, but then when it starts, it's sort of like, I'm not ready for this.
But I got no choice. It's coming. Mm.
I remember waking Nathan up. I'm like, I think something's happening, and then pretty much like, yeah, walking around the room contracting. They were every couple of minutes on top of each other, strong. Popped into the shower. I think I was in there for probably a good hour. I said to Nathan, he's like, "What do you want me to do?" I said, "I want you to eat something because I just don't know what's going to happen."
Valid. I need you to have all the energy for me right now.
So I'm in the shower. He's sitting there eating a sandwich. And then I said to him, by the time I got out, I said, I think I'm going to have to go in. I'd already rung
Mm.
the midwife at this point. I'm like, I think something's happening.
Mm-hmm.
um, and it was a midwife that I'd known from work and things. So
Yeah.
like, all right, come on in. So this was around 4 a.m. by this point.
Yeah.
And so we got in. The way to the hospital from where we live, you come around down this steep hill. And I remember being over the back of the chair in the car, just screaming.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we got there about 4:30 in the morning. Got through security because it was all locked, being in the middle of the night. I just knew I was going to walk myself straight up to the maternity ward, buzzed, and I walked straight into the birthing suite. And
You're like, I know where to go.
I know where to go. I'm taking myself here.
Yeah.
And we were sort of like, okay, what do we do? We're going in here. And as soon as I got into the birthing room, I just stripped myself off naked. I'm like, I just can't have clothes on me.
Yeah.
So I have this one photo that I said to Nathan, and before this all started, I said, take photos. Take photos of labour, because I'm not going to know what's going on. So I have this one photo of me, must have been not long after walking in, standing over the bed, just, this face of just pure pain and just...
Oh my gosh.
Such a beautiful photo. I love it.
Oh.
So I stripped off, went straight into the shower. They'd done a vaginal examination, so it was about 5 to 6 centimetres dilated in 2.5 hours from waking up.
Wow. Yep.
So in the shower, and then I was asking for some pain relief. So they gave me sterile water injections.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the concept of that? Like, why did you choose that over anything else?
I guess it was just a non-pharmacological option to try first off.
Yep.
And I was getting a lot of back pain,
Mm-hmm.
and that's meant to be really good to block your pain pathway in your back.
Okay.
So the midwives gave me them. Horrible. Absolutely.
Okay.
Worth trying, but I screamed the house down. And then pretty much straight after they gave me them, I said, I want the epidural.
Yep. Get it in.
Come back out, hop back up onto the bed for another assessment to see how far I was dilated. And the midwife said, I'm not quite sure what I'm feeling here. So the doctor comes in, the obstetrician, she did an examination, and she said she could feel a foot. So baby was breech.
Okay.
Head down.
And she hadn't been.
We didn't know. So looking back at it now, I'm pretty sure she had been breech for a long time. But all the midwives that had palped, that had felt, she had felt head down to them. And my last scan was the 20-week scan. So I hadn't had, because I was straightforward and uncomplicated, I had no reason to have any other scans. And here, at that time, a 36-week scan wasn't compulsory or recommended. It was, if you're straightforward, if your palps that they're doing, if they're happy with positioning, then there's no need. So I'd gone in thinking that she was head down.
Fuck.
So that's when things started to turn. Called for a cesarean straight away.
Yeah.
Breech baby. We don't want to deliver a breech baby like this. And then within minutes, heart rate started to plummet. They called a code, and everything just rushed from there. Got onto the bed. They gave me some medications to try and stop the contractions. And then her heart rate was just dropping. So we rushed to theatre. And I remember Nathan leaving me at the theatre reception area because they were putting me under a general anaesthetic.
Oh, shit.
So I remember saying to him, like, I love you.
Yeah.
And, like, I knew it was bad. I knew things were turning bad.
Yeah.
And so, then the mask went on. And next thing I knew, I was waking up in the recovery room. And I could see Nathan at the end of the bed. And I had all these theatre staff around me. And I just remember waking up and I said, where is my baby? I didn't know I was having a girl. Didn't know what gender we were having. and the theatre nurse said she didn't make it.
Oh.
So I went into that expecting to hear, yep, she's okay, she's in ICU, or she's,
Mm-hmm.
being careful. But to hear she didn't make it, and I just remember just losing it so much. And we were then taken back to the maternity ward from the theatre area, and she was there in her little cuddle cot with
Yeah.
one of the guys looking after her, and she was perfect.
Mm.
38 weeks. So she had her umbilical cord around her neck,
Oh.
and that was the reason why she died. So whether or not it was through, we think it was through the contractions that the cord tightened, and they tried so hard when they delivered her to
Fuck.
bring her back that she didn't make it.
How common is this a common, like, obviously you've done all, oh, well, you were in midwifery, so you already knew, but like, was it because she was breech? Is the cord, what are the statistics of a cord being wrapped?
I'm not 100% sure of the statistics, but it's part of our training. I remember delivering babies, and part of our training was once the head is out, you need to feel for the cord around the neck before you
Yeah.
deliver the rest of the body. Um, and
And then
so
if it was, would they cut it? Is that what
then
you would
you
do, or
need
you
to,
would take?
help loosen it so then the baby can be birthed safely. So by that being part of our practice, it is common for it to be, I guess, in that position.
Fuck.
But whether or not it was perhaps, that she was breech, that
Mm-hmm.
she had just become so entangled at some point, and then with all the tightenings, the contractions, the labour itself, that's what took her to pass.
Fuck.
So I don't know how long the cord had been there around her neck
Yeah. Yeah.
throughout the whole pregnancy. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, it's whether or not it was a combination of being breech and the cord's position.
Mm.
That's what it took to
When
take.
when you first went in, and because this is my question with what happened with Millie,
Mm,
when I had a planned cesarean, and when they went in and they cut me open for the cesarean, they realized that she wasn't in the position they thought she was in either. So they actually thought she was breech, but she was transverse.
yeah,
Why don't they do a scan? Like, when you got to the hospital, why didn't they scan you to see what position she was in?
yeah, yeah, and
Like,
that's it. Like I remember asking this question over and over again. If I had just had a scan at
mm-hmm.
36 weeks, 37
Yep.
weeks, and if
Yep.
I'd known that she was breech,
Yep.
I would have either booked cesarean,
Yep.
or as
Absolutely.
soon as I started, I would have been straight in for a Caesar.
Yep.
So I think there's perhaps a lot of conversation around trusting the midwifery practice, their skills of
Mm.
palpating a baby's position and being confident with that position that it's in.
Mm.
There's bedside scanners. They're there.
Like,
They're there on the,
right?
and also vaginal examinations, feeling for
Mm.
the head. Like it's part of our basic midwifery and obstetric skills. That's what we learn, and that's what
Mm.
we entrust in what we're feeling. So you would hope that if someone is feeling something that they're not sure about, then they make that decision to say, I'm not 100% sure what this position is, let's do a scan. Um,
Mm.
because I guess most of the time they are in a safe position, or their assessments are accurate and correct.
Mm. But then I
So
guess for those times that they're not accurate, why isn't a
exactly.
scan, you know? So Millie was breached my entire pregnancy. And every time I went in for a midwife appointment, because I did every appointment, every scan, everything, because I was
Yeah,
so freaking scared. And
yeah,
often they would be trying to get her heartbeat or to do the measurement. And they'd be like, are you sure she's breech? I can feel her head down here. So the joke was always that she had a really hard bum,
yeah,
because I would question it. I'm like, maybe she's not. But I'm like, no, I just saw my OB yesterday. He definitely said she is. So he
mm,
was doing the scans and the midwives were just feeling. But they always were telling me that she was
yeah,
head down, but she
yeah,
wasn't. And so
yeah,
and then when we went in and he went to cut me open for the Caesar, and I remember him saying, oh, she's breech, like to the, I asked him later who he was speaking to, and he said the pediatrician. But I was like,
mm,
she wasn't breech, she was transverse. And so it's always, and I questioned him in our follow up, why don't you do a scan first? He says, I felt for
yeah,
where she was. And he goes, I just thought her leg, he thought he was going to cut me open, pull her foot out, and away we go. And it didn't happen.
mm,
So much, and so now thinking about that for you as well, I'm like, why, when you went in, why is that just not common practice? You come in, let's just scan it for the last time, see the position
yeah,
of the baby, and we know what we're working with straight away. There's no guessing game.
exactly, exactly. And that's it. I think back of that all the time, and I even remember at one point in Amelia's pregnancy questioning her position. I remember
Okay.
like because I used to feel a really hard area here. So um, my uterus is a unicorbinate, so I have no
Okay.
right. I only have a left side uterus.
Wow.
So I remember at one point, I'm like, that just feels so solid, and she used to favour the left side.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
The side of the uterus I had. And I was like, oh, I think she might be breech. I remember thinking that at one point. And I'm like, no, she's head down. The midwives, like, they've all the
Mm.
cows been head down. So I put that thought out of my mind until afterwards. And after everything had happened, I'm like, why didn't I just
Mm-hmm.
stick to that thought?
Mm-hmm.
These are the things, isn't it? Like you go
Totally.
over everything in your mind. If
A
I had just,
thousand times.
if that had changed, then she would be here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Even when you said before, you said, oh, second trimester, firm kicks or firm movement, you said. And my whole
yeah,
pregnancy, I didn't have that with Millie. And I always thought it was strange. I always questioned it, but I always was
yeah,
told it was fine. And so I'm like, now I know firm movements is a thing, But
yeah,
I had an anterior placenta. So they'd say, it's like,
yeah.
it's
Feeling
so hard.
strong.
But,
Yeah.
and so you said at the beginning, back then it wasn't, um, you didn't have to have scans after 20 weeks. Is that something that's changed now, or it's still the same?
No, I believe it's changed. So I went through the public system, so I was cared for the midwives through the public hospital. And I believe it's changed. I
Okay.
believe they're now doing a recommended 36-week scan
I
with
don't
a
see why not. Like, for me, I'm just like, I was all for it. I'm like, give me every scan I can. If, I don't know. Like,
and you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a complete in-depth scan where
mm,
you're measuring all the length of the limbs, or it just needs to be: are they head down? Are they in
mm.
the right position? Just getting those, yeah,
And can
they,
they see the cord on a scan? Like, would they be have been able to see the cord had they have done a scan at that point? Like,
yeah. There's some scans that they can see. You can see the circulation pulsating through
mm,
the cords
mm,
itself. Um, so I have been been blessed this year. I have
mm-hmm.
to have Franklin. So
Yay.
during his pregnancy this time round, that was a huge thing for me. I said I need to know where the cord is,
Absolutely.
and I went with a private obstetrician who actually delivered Amelia when she was
Mm,
Nicole. So she was checking the cord's positioning with her scanner. So it can be done. It can be but how accurate?
mm.
Yeah, Yeah, so it's
And so did you have or firstly, how was your pregnancy with Franklin? Like, were you, because I was saying to the girl I interviewed yesterday, we were
mm,
talking about at what stages our anxiety is going to be the worst. Mine was the cesarean. And then obviously I lost her 6 days later. The beautiful girl I interviewed yesterday, her baby died at 4 weeks old. And then, I've had another mum this week who was 40 weeks. And I just like, I
yeah,
feel like I feel like I'm going to maybe be fine during my pregnancy because my trauma came at the cesarean point. So that's going to be really freaking hard for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Where, like, did you get to enjoy your pregnancy, somewhat anxious free?
Yeah, to a degree. So,
Mm.
I guess jumping back a few steps. So after I had Amelia, I wanted to fall pregnant again straight away. I
Mm-hmm.
don't. I was just so. She was my first.
Mm-hmm.
I had all this love, and I was just so desperate to have another baby, just to, you feel
Yeah.
so empty, and this is the thing that you've been striving for, and to not bring a baby home to an
Yeah.
empty nursery, to like,
Yeah.
not to have a baby to replace her, because
Of course.
that never happens, and
Yeah.
it's to, yeah, I just
Yeah.
felt so
You just.
empty.
Yeah.
Um, so I was trying. My husband and I had been trying these last 3 years to give Amelia a sibling.
Yeah.
So I had 3 miscarriages in between them.
Oh fuck.
So um, the first one was I found out I was pregnant Mother's Day weekend the year after Amelia. And then after her first birthday, it was a week later, I lost
Oh.
that one. And that was about 9 weeks.
Yeah.
And then another 12 months after that, I had 2 other losses around that 6 7 weeks. So then when I fell pregnant with Franklin, I thought, oh, here we go.
Mm.
This one's not going to stay either.
Mm.
But I was already in this mindset of preparing myself for another loss. So the first trimester, anxious the whole time of having
Yeah.
another miscarriage.
Yeah.
I got to 11 weeks and I had a huge bleed.
Oh.
And I remember being at work and I stood up and there was just blood everywhere.
Fuck.
Ringing Nathan, I'm like, oh, we've lost it.
Mm.
Like, I don't know how it couldn't have survived. There was just
Yeah.
so much blood.
Yeah.
But I got checked out
Yeah.
and they did a scan.
Mm-hmm.
And this baby is still there. How?
Wow.
How?
Yeah.
So got through that first trimester. And then I relaxed a little bit into the
Mm-hmm.
second trimester, I felt. Once the movements came in, I actually started to feel more anxious once I could
Mm.
feel.
Mm.
Um, because once you're in this baby loss space, you hear of so many stories, which
Mm-hmm.
is lovely, connecting with so many mums and other families. But you hear of what happened to them, and then
Mm-hmm.
I have a voice in the back of my head that's sort of like, oh, like.
Mm-hmm.
So the second trimester, I did feel like I relaxed a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and then it wasn't until the third, and I'd finished work, third trimester, finished work, and then I was starting to freak out. I
Of
was starting
course.
we had the cesarean date,
Yeah.
just, and the funny thing with Franklin's pregnancy, it was the exact same timing as Amelia's pregnancy. We conceived the same month.
No way.
Their due dates were a couple of days apart from each other.
Oh.
So I almost, so he was booked in for the cesarean on the 15th of May,
May. Yeah.
and Amelia's born on the 26th of May.
Yeah.
We almost booked him in on the 25th of May. No, that's
Mm-hmm.
my operation. I
Yeah.
said, no,
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
birthday's on the 24th.
Uh-huh.
Amelia's the 26th. I had
Mm.
him booked in on the 25th. Yeah, but it was so like it felt exactly the same as
Wow.
Amelia's pregnancy. Like I was reliving everything over and over again.
Yeah, like the seasons you would have been in, what's
Mm.
winter at the time, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yes, same time with everything.
so
So,
bittersweet.
yeah, I got really stressed towards the end.
Yeah.
Once I booked in for the cesarean, in my head I was just like, I'm not going to get to that.
Mm.
I'm not going to get to that.
What week did they want to book you for? Like what gestation?
38 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
was the Caesar a choice? I mean, it's what I would have chosen, but was that a choice? Did you have to do that? Were you medically advised? What was the thought process around the cesarean?
yeah, no, it was an option.
Yeah.
I could have tried for a vaginal delivery
Mm-hmm.
um, because he was definitely head down.
Yeah.
We knew through the
Yeah.
scans.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, um, I felt like having another cesarean would have actually helped me heal a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and also relieve some of the labour trauma.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I would have
so
made the
that's
exact
why,
same. Yeah.
yes,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And then
coming up to the, yeah, sorry, continue.
yeah,
Yeah.
when it came to, so I ended up going into labour early with him. So I was
Oh,
37 weeks. So it was
shit.
5 days earlier than he was supposed to come. Um, and I was in Bunnings with my husband.
Did you have a sausage sandwich?
I did not. I'm vegetarian.
Perfect.
But
And look, there was probably listeria in that sausage anyway.
yeah, probably. And I remember saying to Nathan, like, "Oh, I think something's starting." Anyway, got home. It was like 10:30 in the morning, and I'm like, "Yeah, there's something." And yeah, I rang the hospital and said, "Oh, I think I'm starting to contract. I've got a booked cesarean for this week." She was like, "Yep, come on in. Your obstetrician's actually already here on call anyway."
Amazing.
So I went in, and she was like, "Yeah, you're 2 centimeters dilated. Let's have a baby."
Oh,
And I was like, "Okay, okay." So then,
yeah.
and it all, yeah, hopping onto the same theatre bed, being pushed down the same corridor.
Mm,
I remember bawling my eyes out as we
mm,
went into the theatre room, into that space. Yeah, so it was almost like I was living what Amelia's birth could have been.
mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Far out. And yeah, I mean, I'm so scared for that moment, like to be wheeled into that same room in that same space, and you had the same obstetrician
Yeah.
that delivered, like, and was it healing for you?
I, yeah, I do think it was.
Yeah.
For my first miscarriage, I had to go back into that same operating room. Um,
Fuck.
and that time, that was just over 12 months after I had Amelia. I found that experience quite traumatic as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I ended up needing to have a gynecology procedure a few months later, and I had to go
Okay.
back into that room again.
Far, because you
Uh,
live. So you're in Tasmania, and you're in quite a small. Are you in a small area town? I'm sure you don't have many options of
no,
hospitals and
that's
theaters
our
and
main
stuff. Yeah.
hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so yeah, so I'd been back into that theatre space twice,
Wow.
having Amelia, and then when it came to have Franklin, I did find it healing because it was fortunately
Hmm.
outcome.
Yeah.
It was my obstetrician. She was so beautiful, and I think she cried as
Hmm.
there, and um, I think it did help. I think it did help being exposed to that environment again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the lead up to it had helped as well, though. My pre-exposure to that space had
Sure. Yeah,
eased.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
We've been offered to go back to the Martyr in Brisbane where we lost Millie, and because I want to get all the reports from the week that we spent in hospital with her, and they said, oh, you have to sit with the neonatologist and go over everything first. And I think they did offer that we could do it in a different space, but I know that Dylan doesn't want to just yet, and I'm not sure if he's ready, but like part of me
yeah.
does want to step back into that space because I feel like I
Yeah.
almost have to, because it feels surreal still. It's like
Yeah.
it's like, did that actually happen?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think going back into that space, whilst will be scary and traumatic and, reliving it, I think it would also be, there were some really beautiful moments in there as well. Like, and it would be like Millie's there.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to like birthing again, my GP, like our obstetrician's amazing, and he's been divine, and his whole team are so beautiful. Like they call me to check in, and we've seen them at events, and they come up and give us hugs, and they say, please, when you have another baby, can I be in the room with you, and I know it's so lovely. And my GP, though, she has a obstetrics background and midwifery, not midwifery, obstetrics and gynecology. And
Mm.
she said, let me assure you, Rochelle, your obstetrician wants nothing more in this world than to bring a baby in this world for you right now. And she said she knows Drew and she loves him. And she said, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go with him, but she said sometimes going with the same one puts so much pressure on them, and then
Yeah.
they can be so over cautious.
Mm.
And so it's just such Dylan definitely wants to go with Drew again. And but my thought of laying there and seeing him there, like, that scares me as well. And that's why I'm like, but it could be super healing. But it's like, you just
Yeah.
have to pray for the perfect outcome.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. And that's it. And it's hard to know. It's hard to know what way to go. Like,
mm-hmm,
is exposing yourself to the environment and the obstetrician again going to be helpful? But you don't know until you try.
mm-hmm,
Um,
yeah,
so I think it is worth. I think it is worth exposing yourself, at
mm-hmm,
least trying.
yeah,
I work in the same hospital, so for me, I had to. Well, I didn't.
mm,
I could have looked for work elsewhere,
mm-hmm,
but to go back to nursing in that area, I needed
mm,
to desensitize myself, I guess.
yeah,
Um, so I remember doing a few walkthroughs. I went back to work 6 months after having Amelia, which,
yeah,
looking back now, I rushed myself back,
yeah,
um, because I felt guilty about being on maternity leave without a baby.
yeah,
And I'm so annoyed at myself now for having
yeah,
those.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so I remember pressuring myself into going back
mm,
and walking back through that hospital. Certain corridors, there's a lift that I remember avoiding, hearing code blues, like it's
oh, of
all that sort of
course,
stuff. So I found exposing myself to the environment. It was helpful. It was
yeah,
hard. It was very
yeah,
hard.
yeah,
Uh, but when it came to have Franklin, I felt supported and settled until certain moments that
yeah,
just all kind of hits you all of a sudden at times.
yeah,
And you have those, how did that even happen? What even happened? Like, I still have, yeah,
with
moments that,
Amelia,
yeah, it just all
mm,
flashes back to you, and yeah.
yeah, yeah. But you're doing amazing things in the space of baby loss. What kind of things have you implemented since the?
Yeah. Yeah. So in the first 12 months after having Amelia, I started writing everything down. So it kind of started off as letters to
Mm-hmm.
her. So I had this journal that I'd write letters to her about random things.
So beautiful.
seeing a bee or
Mm.
times that I would sit down at the cemetery with her, I'd just write letters to her. So it
Mm-hmm.
started off as that, and then I, started actually writing things that helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I ended up designing a book or
Mm-hmm.
writing.
Ta-da!
Um,
I have one.
Yay!
It's actually so beautiful. Like, this
Oh,
is
thank you.
so beautiful.
I am very happy with it. I am very happy with it. It's I wanted something that I wanted something that people could pick up, have it on their coffee table because it looks nice,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
but pick up and just flick into any spot and start reading it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, they didn't have to
and
go from start to end.
yeah, but also something that was inviting, something light and airy.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I just started writing everything down, everything that I kind of helped me, and going through different things about like being home without a baby, my husband going back to work, me being
Mm.
so yes, I wrote a book called Still a Birth,
Mm-hmm.
and got a lovely local artist to design the front cover.
Mm-hmm. So,
Um, the day that Amelia was buried, we had a small. It was just my husband and I at the cemetery.
yeah.
Um, And then at the same time, my family, my mum and my sister, my other sister was on the mainland at this time. They bought a whole heap of proteas, the
What it,
native
oh,
flower
yeah.
proteas,
Yeah.
and they were potting. So they potted one for all of us. So
Mm.
we all have an Amelia protea.
Uh-huh.
So that's why the front cover features proteas and some native plants because
It's so
um,
nice. How
yeah.
special.
So that was the start of that book, and then last year I did a fundraiser um, to raise some funds to start making baby loss boxes
Mm-hmm.
that can then be donated to my local hospital. And the boxes to include things that are keepsake items, self care items, things that can help. I I guess bring my thought was to help the family feel like they were a little bit less alone.
Mm.
I remember after having Amelia, I just felt I wanted to find other people. I wanted to find others and talk to them about Amelia, and I just wanted to share and
Mm-hmm.
talk about their experiences and just have that openness with other families. So
Yeah.
I wanted these boxes to bring comfort to another family that was going through a loss. So I started designing these boxes and fundraising and donating them to the Launceston General Hospital. Um, so in the middle of this year, I connected with another family that had lost their son Johnny in June at 38 weeks as well. So between that family, myself, my husband, and my sister, we've actually just started a charity
Mm.
on the rainbow.
Yeah.
So we make these boxes and we're donating them statewide now. So to
Wow.
Hobart and to Launceston. Um, and they've got a wooden photo frame so you
Mm.
can have a special photo of your bub with you. There's mugs for, to have at home for that self care side of things,
Yeah.
special blankets. There's a couple of books, resource booklets in there. So there's one called A Little Help from Jack, and a
Yeah.
friend of mine, Emily Judd.
Uh.
So she's done this wonderful work around compiling resources,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a little crocheted swan. There's a baby loss journal in there as well that you can fill out through your milestones and
Is
bits
that
and
from?
pieces.
Is that one? So I've spoken with Emily. So I think I've got a little help from Jack
Yep,
here.
that's it. Yep.
And then is this the baby?
It's Forever in Our Hearts from, oh, yes, you've got that one. Yeah, that's lovely as well, from Whitaker and Friends. Yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed her this week.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
There's so many amazing resources. I love this. And so you're putting it all together in a box
Yeah.
and getting them all around Tasmania.
Yeah.
Do you guys have precious wings there?
We don't. Oh, actually,
Yeah,
do we? Oh, we might do.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not
we
sure.
do.
We got a precious wings box, but I'm
Oh,
not sure if it's just Queensland or if it's.
yeah, no, we don't have Precious Wings box. We have a similar group of ladies that donate handmade outfits for
No.
us. So Amelia was dressed in this beautiful little dress that had butterflies and things all over it. That,
Mm,
um,
okay. Yeah.
but we have Bears of Hope as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's my
lovely.
little.
Yeah,
I love it so
yeah,
much. I'm actually interviewing, so Amanda Bowles is the lady who started Bears of Hope um,
yes.
17 years ago, and I'm actually interviewing her at the beginning of next year, just after her. So her boy would have been turning 18, and so
Oh,
we're interviewing her.
yeah,
Because I just messaged her the other week and I just said, I'm not sure if you're aware, and I know that your organization has been around for so long, but just so you know, like you're still impacting lives so much. I said, like, I take this bear everywhere. And like the photos that I have of like Millie and I holding those bears, and I don't even remember like I don't even remember the moment the nurses gave them to me, but I just remember all of a sudden I have these two bears, and I knew the concept, and it was like one's going to be Millie's, and it's still got Millie's sticker on the back, like
oh,
her hospital sticker. It's like all coming off, and one of my friends' mums has already sewn her arms back together because I just like take it everywhere,
yeah,
and I'm like, it's just the most beautiful concept ever.
yeah. It is.
Everywhere I always have her in my handbag, and people would be like, "Oh, cute teddy," and I'm like, "Thanks," like and no one ever asks why I'm carrying around a teddy bear, and I'm a 37-year-old woman, but I'm sure they just think it's my child. It is my child's, but you know what I mean? It's like, but it's just such a beautiful concept. So I messaged her and said, thank you so much. Like, I just want you to remember that even 17 years on, your organization is having such an amazing impact. And yeah, we were chatting and she said, actually, I'd already heard your story. Somebody else told me about you. And then we had a mutual friend and yada, yada. So,
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, we wouldn't have been able to have the time with Amelia without their cuddle cots. So
mm,
the cuddle cot we had donated through and raised for through Bears of Hope. Like
was
it's,
it?
yeah,
Okay.
we wouldn't have been able to spend the couple of days that we had with Amelia without
Mm.
that. Like it's, so
And
it's,
and
yeah. And
you'd assume most well, you'd assume every hospital has one, but it's not the case.
no, no, and that's it. And to the thought of like you're in that time, you're in that moment, and it hits you that you've literally got such a small window to create a lifetime of memories.
Mm. And so, what things did you do? Like, are there things that you wish you did, or are there things you're so grateful for? How much time did you spend with her?
Yeah, so we had just
Mm.
under 2 days with her, and we gave her a bath. We took ink prints of her hands and her feet,
Mm-hmm.
of her hair,
Mm.
and we had family. We had family come in and meet her and spend time with her and cuddle her, and um, I just I looking back at it now, I we had our experience with Amelia was a beautiful time. It
Mm-hmm.
was. I'm very grateful with the midwives that we had that because you're not thinking, you don't think, okay, what should I be doing? What
No, you have no
like
idea what to do.
no,
Yeah, you weren't
you want
expecting it.
someone exactly. So I was grateful for the midwife that I had that said, look, these are the things that we can do.
Okay.
We had heartfelt come in,
Yeah.
beautiful photos.
Yeah.
Which it felt very hard at the time to take these photos and just felt very strange, but they are the best thing I have.
Mm-hmm.
Of
Me too.
I think looking back, just things like reading her a story. So this is one thing that
Mm.
I talked to the lovely Emily Judd about. And Emily's organised some books to be donated to our local hospital to be kept for families to
Yeah.
then read or have the
Beautiful.
option to read a book to your pup.
Yeah.
So something like that, something
Yeah.
that you to be able to hold them and read a beautiful story to. And
Mm.
yeah, so um,
Oh, that's so
yeah,
beautiful.
and I remember having a good friend of mine had crocheted a blanket, so she had this blanket with her most of the time, and the
Mm.
bear from Bears.
Mm.
So those things, I found myself taking them to bed with me every night,
Yeah.
and you want to,
Clinging on to them.
yeah, yeah. So, mm,
Yeah, and I know that a lot of midwives are starting to listen to the podcast, and people are sharing it. And Dylan and I were interviewed by a midwife last week for a group of midwives and to share our story. And so I love hearing what things helped in that moment. And I think the biggest thing that keeps coming up is, we don't know what to do in that time. We have no idea. And as I said, I don't even remember the conversations that were had, but we were offered heartfelt. And I remember they said,
mm,
it might feel weird, but I'm going to invite them in. And if at any time you feel uncomfortable, we can send them away. And they are the most precious things I have. I
yeah,
message my photographer all the time. I've become really good friends with her. I'm like, I just can't thank you enough. And
yeah,
she's always like, thank you so much for your feedback. She said, I never really hear from families whether
mm,
how they were perceived or received. And I'm like, oh, I just adore them. And
yeah,
yeah, like the handprints and the footprints and the hair, the lock of hair. And we didn't do those things ourselves. We freaked out because, like, again, you think you're taking your baby home and you're not going to expect they're going to pass away. And then we got told the Thursday morning, like, today's your last day. And if we don't do it in a gentle, guided way, it's going to happen in a pretty horrific way. So we were guided so beautifully through our day. Again, we did have a stunning experience for that
mm,
last day. But then once she passed, we got so scared that we left about an hour later. And then when I hear stories like yourself where you spent these beautiful days with her once they had passed, I'm like, part of me is like, oh, I wish I stayed longer. And we were offered the opportunity to bath her, but it felt so odd,
yeah,
And so I had her on like the side of a sink, and I was just splashing the water up on her. And we've got heartfelt took beautiful photos of her hair all slicked back, and
yeah,
but I'd turned her face to the side because I just was so sad at like how she looked, and but I just kept telling her she looked beautiful, and it was just.
yeah,
And then when we're like, we're going, and they're like, oh, like they thought we are going to stay the night, and we're like, oh, we've got to go. We'd been in that hospital for 6 days. I went there from when I'd had my Caesar, rushed to Brisbane, and I didn't leave the hospital for 6 full days. Like, didn't see fresh air. And so we left, and then the interview I did the other day, and the mum was saying like they were not leaving the hospital without their baby. And so they left within the bassinet, and they took her to the home where they then spent the next 6 days with her. And it's just
yeah,
like you hear all these beautiful stories, and there's no right or
yeah,
wrong because in that moment
no,
you feel you do
exactly,
what's best. But what I think is the most important message is that the midwives give you every option of what is available, and then you make the decisions in that moment of what feels
yeah,
right. And I
yeah,
think, yeah, getting to put a nappy on them and getting to dress them and doing all those things that you're never going to be able to do again, I think is just
yeah,
so, so valuable for a mom and a dad, but that yearning feeling of mothering them.
yeah. And that I still feel like it doesn't go away. It and I think that's why I've thrown everything these last few years into the book and these boxes. It's my
Mm,
way of mothering Amelia. And
mm,
I guess like you're saying, you're in that moment and you're not thinking. You have no idea of what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So with the boxes, we just hope that they are a way of things like having the blanket that a thought of just wrapping your baby in this particular blanket,
Mm,
that special blanket to bring home with you.
yeah.
Um, and it's just, and knowing that, yeah, there are other families out there that have gone through it, and I think that just helps be a little bit of a light in the moment. But
Yeah.
you're right, you can't think of,
Mm-mm.
you can't stop and be like, okay, I've got this amount of time, and this practical voice comes into your head, I've got to do this, and this.
Yeah.
So you're right. That's why we need the midwives. We need the staff to be proactive and gentle at the same time, but educating themselves to be like, okay, what can we do? What can
Mm, yeah.
let's definitely offer these things,
Yeah.
or say, look, um, I'm going to do these handprints. You or ask for consent, but
Mm-hmm.
you might not want to do them now. You might not want to look at them now, but later down the track, so you have them there.
Totally. I opened up so I did one footprint of, because they would be like, do you want to do her prints? And we were like, oh no. And then I was like, oh wait, yes I do. Like we keep going to leave and come back.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we have this stunning heartfelt photo of me doing a pink footprint of Millie's. And then it took me about a month to open up her Precious Wings box, and I opened it and they had stamped at the bottom footprint by mummy. I know. And then Dylan had done a handprint, and her hands were so smushy because she was, and so she
Yeah,
had no muscle tone. And so the handprint's like this, but then underneath it says handprint by daddy. And just
that's
having that
beautiful.
little piece of cardboard,
Yeah,
knowing we took those prints and then
yeah,
they went on and did a heap of other ones after, is
yeah.
just so nice. Like
Mm,
the boxes you're making will make the biggest impact, because like I'm looking at my Precious Wings box right now and I can see all the footprints on top, and I know that I can open it, and inside the box they had put things like not just her tags, like she was wrapped in bandages because she had 4 broken limbs, and so all of her bandages were in the box.
mm.
Her little what's the thing they put on to
Yeah,
monitor their
yeah,
this, yeah, that was
yeah,
in there. Like
yeah,
all those that just brought back all those memories, bittersweet, like awful but so beautiful. And so I just, yeah, and it was just like, wow, that's really thoughtful, and I can go back into that moment and think of her wearing that little piece of jewelry. Yeah.
yeah. It is. Yeah, I remember the first few weeks after having Amelia. So her hands were quite yeah, stuck
Smudgy.
in the smudgy. Yeah. So we
Yeah.
were able to get one hand and her two feet. So my husband and we ended up getting tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
I have her foot,
So
yeah,
beautiful.
my wrist the right way,
Yeah.
and he ended up getting her hand on his hand.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so for him, it was sort of like holding her hand.
Ugh, I love that.
It's like
We
he's
we must have copied you because we just got tattoos this week as well.
yes,
But we did the opposite. So Dylan got her feet on
yeah,
his ribs, and I got
yeah.
her hands under here.
Oh, lovely.
I
Yeah,
know. But I always wanted her foot. I always wanted the pink foot because it was just like this vision that I just always see the photo. And I said, oh, her hands were smudgy. And then when I opened the box, I was like, oh, there's like other ones of her hands. So when we left, the nurses did say, did you want more prints? And we said yes. So obviously we were too scared to open her fingers and make it. But then when I opened the box and they were there, my tattooist was my friend. She was like, babe, those handprints are stunning. Like, you need to use them. And I was like, and so now I always imagine that she's like holding onto my arm or
yeah,
something. But
yeah,
those are just so invaluable, right? Like, that we get to have their handprints, and for you, like, that's so visible, and your husband, that people are gonna ask, or it's
Yeah,
this conversation starter. And
yeah, it is, and I think I've been very open from the start. I don't know if it's just the person that I am or the work that I've done before having Amelia, but I've been very open to
mm-hmm,
sharing the story and talking about her to complete strangers.
yeah,
Um, so, and it does come up in conversations. People see your tattoo and you're like, oh, what's that?
mm,
Or when I was pregnant with Franklin, they'll say, oh, is this your first? And I say, no,
mm-hmm,
it's not my
yeah,
first. And then it goes on to conversation and you can see them being uncomfortable,
mm-hmm,
but I think at times it's them not wanting to upset me.
yeah,
I think, no, talking about her is one of the best things I can
absolutely,
do.
yeah,
I might cry, but
mm-hmm,
I think if I didn't talk about her, it would just, it would be like she didn't exist.
yeah.
And I can't have
I
that.
think you'd. I feel like I'd implode. Like it's just like constantly, you just want to
Yeah,
verbalize their name all the time. Like,
yeah,
how could you not?
exactly.
I love it. I love talking about
And
her and hearing her name.
it's the same, like if you was, yeah, seeing a friend and you know they have a child, you would be asking things about their child. So
Yeah.
it's, I guess it's our way of normalizing the conversation. Why hide? Why
Mm,
still have birth stories? We still have
yeah.
pregnancy. We
Yeah.
still, they have features. Like it's,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So it's, yeah. I talk about it all the time.
I love it. I love it. Was her nickname ever going to be Millie? Because it's
It was
Amelia.
new, new.
Because I love Amelia. It's so like obviously we had just Millie, but yeah, Amelia is just so
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Um, and then I guess from a practical perspective, what what were the best things people did for you post losing Amelia, like in terms of support? What things were helpful and what things were not in the
Mm,
kind of weeks, days, weeks, and months after after
yeah,
you lost her?
yeah. I think honestly, just checking in, whether it's a phone call, a text message, anything, just knowing that people, just knowing that, yeah, people are comfortable checking on you, finding out how you are. You
Yeah.
don't feel so alone. Um, my family, for example, they would send me a message every morning. My mum would
Mm.
send me a message every morning. My sister would, and even if it was just a good morning or a morning with a little kiss
Mm.
for news, like it was just something so simple like that went a long way.
Yeah.
Um, Practical wise, in the first week, 2 weeks, meals were very practical. Food,
Yeah.
you don't feel like eating, you don't feel like cooking, you don't feel like doing any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was definitely very handy, practical
Yeah.
wise, um, to make yourself grab something out of the fridge
Yeah.
and function.
Yeah.
Um, so that was helpful. Um, yeah, I think, and just asking questions, but
Yeah.
in a nice, sensitive way that shows that you are actually genuinely interested in
Yeah.
how you are doing. Tell me about Amelia. Tell me about, like, if you're comfortable, share with me what happened. So
Mm.
whereas I found some people ignored it, nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, there were a few people that I expected to hear from, and I haven't at all.
Wow.
And then you see them, and it's like that never happened.
Wow.
Didn't
Yeah.
acknowledge Amelia at
That's
all.
wild.
So, and I think that's the worst thing to do. And a lot of people say that they don't want to bring it up because they don't want to upset you, or
Mm.
they don't know what the right thing is to say. And yes, at the time you might be having, some days are harder than others. So you may catch someone on one of the harder days and they may become upset. But I think, to be honest, not saying anything is worse than saying
Yeah.
anything. or literally say, I really, yeah, I'm not
I, d-
sure.
I don't
I
know
don't
what to say. Yeah.
know.
I'm lost for words. I'm so sorry. I'm stuck, but I'm thinking of you and I'm here. Yeah.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be a massive message, phone call, conversation. Just knowing that you're there
Yeah.
is huge.
I think, in fact, less is more. Sometimes people do say too much. And it's like
Yeah.
the best messages I got during all of that time was, oh my gosh, this is so shit. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
I've got no words. And I was like,
Yeah.
yep, I'm with you. Like
Yeah.
that was more than anyone trying to justify or whatever. I had a girlfriend take me for lunch last week and picked her up, and we went down and we're sitting in the restaurant, and then she just started crying. And I was like, are you okay? And
Yeah.
she said, I am the shittest friend. I said, why? And she said, I've avoided you for the last 4 months. I said, honestly, hadn't noticed. I said, honestly, you could have told me that you've dropped in 6 times. I don't remember anything from the last 4 months. I said, I kind of joked about it, but I said, and she said, I've ignored everything you've posted. She said, I just didn't know how to deal with it. And she
Mm.
said, I feel awful. And I was like, it was so nice to hear it. I was like, oh, it's okay. Like, they said people don't know how to deal. I understand this. And she's got a little girl. And she said, every time I went to reach out to you, I just thought of Maeve, like her little girl. And she goes, I just didn't know what to say to you. And I said, I couldn't tell you. I haven't noticed that you haven't been around, honestly. And she said, I reached out to you a couple of times and said, if you need anything, let me know. She said, but they were empty messages because I didn't mean it. And I really hoped you didn't because I didn't know what to do. And it was actually so nice that she addressed it, to be fair, and she just kept, and then she messaged me later, I'm so sorry for crying. And I was like, but I said, you know what? This is better. It's been 4 months and a lot of people have dropped off. And
Exactly.
now, 4 months later, you've taken me for a nice boozy lunch and you've wined and dined me and we're good. So I think that's a massive thing as well. Like the help we got in the beginning was phenomenal. Our house was busy, which is what we wanted. People
Yeah.
would walk in, start vacuuming my floors, packing my dishwasher, putting food in front of me, and
Yeah.
that's what we needed because I wasn't doing any of that. But I always said I'm scared for when the dust settles. I'm
Yeah.
scared for when everyone goes back to life and somewhat forgets what happened. Where
Yeah.
we've got to still live with it every day, and
Every day.
it's getting hard. It's getting harder more than it's getting easier. For sure, that is happening. So, yeah, I think the people who are there later is
Yeah.
what's so important as well.
Yeah. And that's it. The ones that know that it's not just a 12 months of the first
Mm-mm.
Christmas, the first,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
you know, it's it's for the rest of your life that
Mm,
you don't have them here. You're
mm,
missing out on everything that they would have been doing.
yeah.
And so it is. You're right. It's the friends and families that come back after the dust has settled and do still continue to check in with you, because for us, it's not going away.
No.
It changes. It's
Mm,
changing. It gets different, but everyone's different as well. That's the
yeah,
thing.
that's
Like,
right.
I found this Amelia's birthday this year the hardest one.
Really.
Harder than a first, harder than a second, and I don't know if it was because of having Franklin. He
Mm-hmm.
looked so much like her when he was
Mm,
born, and it was like with his pregnancy, when I had him, it was like I was living that postpartum phase of what I should have been having with her. But I was
mm,
standing next to her grave holding him,
mm. Fuck.
and he looked exactly like her. And I
Mm,
just remember going back to the day that we buried her, this
mm,
tiny coffin being lowered
mm-hmm.
into that ground, and I'm standing there with him, and it was just like what the moment.
Mm,
And realizing that it hits you every now and then.
yeah.
I remember seeing this little girl at a cafe, and she might have been about 3 or 4. And I remember just looking at her, and I'm like, that's what I picture Amelia to look like at this age.
Mm,
Everything about her, the way that she had her hair, her
yeah.
eyes, just everything. And then these moments just pop up. So
Yeah.
I think the ways that people can help you, it's familiarizing yourself. If you don't know what to say, do some research. have a
Yep.
look around, listen to podcasts, read
Yep.
books,
Yep.
be open to your friend, and literally say, I don't know what to say,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to say something.
I literally got a text message from one of my best friends last night saying, "Hey, can we do coffee tomorrow?" And I was like, "Yes, I'd love that." And then I wrote, "Are you okay?" And then she wrote, "Can I send you a message?" And I just knew straight away. And because she's smart enough that she does do research, so she knew that this was the right way to do it. And so she's pregnant, and I just sobbed, obviously, but more with just so much gratitude for such a friend, such a beautiful friend that knew the right way to do it. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
she's my best friend, and she just said, like, I just have wanted to tell you for weeks, but I didn't know how, and it feels so wrong that Millie's not here, and just all the things, and and then we went for breakfast this morning. It was beautiful, and there's lots to go with that whole
yeah,
scenario, but she is the kind of person that would have researched and gone, okay, what is the right way for me to address this? She didn't tell me in a cafe in public, because
yeah,
that's not the right way to tell a friend that you're pregnant who's just lost their baby or has had miscarriages or infertility. Like, the right
no,
way is exactly what she did. Hey, let's
yeah,
catch up tomorrow. By the way, I do need to tell you something. And the words she wrote were so beautiful. It's like, I wanted to tell you this way so you can sit with it in private before we meet
yeah,
up. And if you need to postpone tomorrow, that's fine. Like, and I was just like, my word, I love you. You're such a good person. And, but yeah, that's exactly right. Google how to help a grieving friend, how to help a friend through baby loss, listen to podcasts, read books, do all the
yeah.
things, because there is
There is,
so many resources out there.
which is amazing. It's amazing to see that there's more coming,
Yeah.
um, and that people are starting to become more comfortable with it and talking about it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I remember thinking, yeah, through those years between since having Amelia and trying to fall pregnant again, and then having the early losses and seeing friends fall pregnant and bringing these babies home, and you just and that's a whole nother avenue, isn't it? Like there's so much to it that
Mm.
it's straightforward. You get these, yeah,
I had a girl that I was going to interview this week, and she messaged me and she said, I just need to postpone. I'm just not in the space at the moment. And so she's got a 12-week-old baby, and she just said, she's just having a massive grief bomb,
yeah,
like it. And it's
yeah,
like, fuck, it just would open up a whole other level of
mm,
complexity.
yeah,
It's, yeah, it's
yeah,
every possible level. And then, like, like Amanda from Bears of Hope, that's interviewing next year, like her son's turning 18 and it's like, I'm curious, what is it like 18 years on? But even for the fact that obviously she knows it's her son's 18th next year, but like, I love that that's being celebrated, and how are they going to celebrate that, and what does that look like? And yeah,
yeah.
never
And
ending.
I remember thinking back to when we were trying after Amelia, and each month is you get your period, you get disappointed, and then start trying,
Mm-hmm.
and in your head you're like, I shouldn't be doing this. I should
Mm-hmm.
baby here. I
Right.
should. Amelia should be 6 months old, 12 months old,
Yeah.
and I shouldn't be navigating this grief while so desperately trying for another baby. And I just remember feeling so just everything,
Yeah.
fertility stuff, and then
Yeah.
grief side of things, and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that,
Postpartum without a baby, you're losing your
yeah,
hair. And I said to someone,
exactly,
I made a joke the other day. I said, my boobs are saggy and I didn't even get to breastfeed. I was like, I'm ripped off. Like, I thought that only happened if you breastfed. I'm like, all the things that happen after having a baby still happen. You just don't have your baby. And so, you can't, struggling to lose weight or all these
yeah.
things. And it's like, if I had my prize, if I had my baby here, it would just all feel worth it. And having her
It's
was
just
worth it.
understanding
But
who to the empty nursery. At the
Oh.
moment that we walked through that door without having Amelia there, I remember I walked straight into the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure what I would do. I remember thinking about it on the way home. Like, am I just going to close the door and just ignore it? Am I going to hide away? But I didn't. I walked straight in there, sat in that armchair that I had. I knew that's where I was going to feed her. That's where I was going to sit. And this was this beautiful space that I'd created for her. And I just sat there and I bawled my eyes out. Because I just thought of, like, I could see the
Mm.
wardrobe with all her clothes hanging and just cot and just everything set up.
Yep.
And there's nothing there. And same with, like, every night that you went to bed, I had the bassinet next to me.
Yep.
And I remember so many times I would sleep with my hand in the bassinet. And
Mm.
I had this little toy, this little bunny that would come into bed with me along with one of the blankets or the bears. And sometimes I would just put that in there and just pretend that I was resting my hand on Amelia. But it's all that side of things as well, like the thought of, what do I do with this stuff?
Yeah.
What do I do with the clothes and the nappy bag that was already packed with
Right.
outfits?
Legit. Of course. I still have, like, I'm in Millie's nursery.
Yeah,
This
I
is where
thought you were.
oh shit, this is where I record the podcast now. And it's like,
Oh, it's
it's all,
beautiful.
it's so set up and for her, and I was able to return a fair bit of, Baby Bunting contacted me and said that you can return your things for free, which is a phenomenal
Yeah.
thingy, but we still kept so much of it. But I noticed yesterday I still have a basket here that I'd prepared for the boot of the car with
Yeah.
like change of outfits and nappies, and like I'm the most organized freak on earth. But it's like I was just wanting to be the best mum ever. I just wanted to be so prepared and so ready, and I,
And
I
that's it.
love I love the thought that you said that, like, you'd have a bear and pretend it's her, because sometimes I lay in bed and I've got a bear that my cousin got made for me with her heartbeat in it, and I just lay there and I just like stroke it and I do pretend it's her, and I think, am I fucking crazy? Like,
And like I remember sometimes, especially in those first few weeks, when you're still so you've got the belly still, and
mm-hmm.
I remember just so many times just pretending to lay there and just hoping and hoping that I would feel a kick, and that like it didn't happen, and that I would go
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
Um, how many times that I would pretend that she was still safe
yeah,
inside.
for sure.
Um, but I don't think anything that you do after this is crazy, or like it's, you got to do what you got to do to help the process.
I think we do those things so that we don't go crazy. Like, that's what,
Yeah,
yeah.
pretty much. And I found, like, with her room, I kept it very much the same for a long time, and then I ended up caring for my nephew, who was 6 months older than Amelia. So I'd care for him every second Saturday. So I changed the room as Amelia would have grown.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful.
that was my way of. At times, I'd feel guilty.
Mm.
When I packed up some of her clothes, and I just thought I shouldn't be putting any of this away. These are her special things. They should be staying exactly.
Mm.
But then in my mind, I kept thinking, no, okay, so she would be one by now. So now she needs these things.
Oh,
And
that's
I
so
think,
sweet.
yeah, I just think trying to grow the room as she would have grown kept her alive
Her
in this year.
alive, yeah. That's actually really sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when Franklin came along, is that his room now, or how did?
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is his room, and I was so torn with that, as
Mm.
the thought of getting everything back out, setting everything up. Same clothes, same cot, same bassinet. And in
Yeah.
my mind, I'm like, what do I do here? Do I get rid of everything and get new things? But
Mm.
my thought was, we would have hoped to have had another baby, a sibling for Amelia anyway, sharing her things with him.
Yeah.
So at the time when I was starting to put the nursery together, I hated that thought. And I remember sitting there one day just bawling my eyes out. I was putting the clothes in the wardrobe because I didn't want to put the clothes away again. I wanted to put the clothes. I wanted to bring that baby home.
Yeah. Yeah.
That baby. But as I was hanging them and folding them, and I just remember that flashback of I've done this before.
Fuck.
And I packed those clothes away because she never. So it was very much a hesitant, do I put the nursery together? Do I not? And then at the same time, trying to celebrate his pregnancy, not wanting to, I guess, neglect his celebration side of that, but feeling at the same time, yeah, you know.
They are all such valid feelings because I've already thought of all of those things as well. Like, you know, oh, I'm not going to set up the nursery next time. Like, how stupid I was to, you know, jump ahead so much and da 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 da. And well, at least it's already all set up. I don't have to do anything. And can't believe I brought the pram. And you know, we upgraded the car and all the things. And then I'm like, but our next baby deserves to be excited. Like, you know, I want to be excited for them and I want to have all the things for, like, you know, I want to, do you still do the gender reveal? And I still want to celebrate and tell people when we're pregnant, like, because every step and every part of it is a bonus. And, you know, it's all the things that you're feeling are things that I can only imagine are exactly what I felt already and will feel when that time comes as well.
Yeah. And then it's the after side of things as well. I feel guilty about, she's in a cemetery just down the road from where we live.
Yeah.
And I used to go there all the time.
Yeah.
I used to take books and sit there and read and just lay on a picnic rug and just, you know, go there all the time and write her letters. And now I feel guilty because I'm not doing that as often as I used to.
Yeah.
And that's when I feel like your grief shifts. Yes. It's waves.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
You never know what you're going to get that day.
Yep. I actually felt like I wasn't going to cry on your podcast today because I've already cried so much today. I'm just having one of those griefy days and I'm just like sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And then I get on and I was like, I can't possibly cry anymore. And then, oh, here it comes again. It's like far out.
And you think, how have I not run out of tears yet?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I've run out of tissues and toilet paper, but the tears keep coming. Well, it has been so lovely chatting to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You are a wealth of knowledge is not the right word, but just like your experiences and every podcast has been so different, obviously, but it's just been so nice hearing all the different facets. And I think you should be so incredibly proud of your beautiful book. You know, it truly is so stunning, and the charity and the boxes you're making and the impact and all of those things. And I see that, you know, it's just like Bears of Hope, in 18 years time you're still going to be impacting people's families, and I think that's so lovely.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me.
You're
I appreciate
welcome. And I'll put all the links to everything in the show notes so that people can click on it and see everything that you're doing.
Lovely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Lovely
to talk to you face to face.
I know. I'm sure we'll chat so much more.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, lovely. Bye.
Bye.